first time we spoke to our next guest, she was with a group called Bienvenido.us. Now, she's the congressional candidate for Florida's 13th district. Anna Paulina. Luna, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for bringing me back as a candidate.
Before we go any further, just got to do this. She is also on the cover of Ballistic magazine. You got to bring that up. How super cool is that?
It was probably the coolest thing thus far in the campaign, mainly because they allowed me to voice my platform against red flag laws, but then also too, it pays tribute to my military service. So I actually borrowed a kit. If you look at the cover, you can see the American flag, and that's to send a message when some of the guys are doing hostage rescue. That American flag in color means that you're a friendly force, and so that you're there to help. And so we're sending a message. We're friendlies. We're here to help, and we're going to help fix DC.
And I found it I just happened to see it in a magazine shop in my town. I was like, well, I'm buying that. I know her. I have yet to speak to a veteran. We have to talk about the border and coronavirus. When Ebola broke out, there was a response with the 101st Airborne, United States Army. I have yet to speak to a veteran who thinks that we are doing a good job as it relates to border security. You have a Democratic Party that says they want to take border security seriously. They refuse to build the border wall. This was voted on back in 2006. It was voted bipartisan. It was funded. It was signed into law by President Bush. The wall has not been built. We are watching yet another pandemic where we know people will go to Mexico and they will try to enter the United States. If coronavirus broke out in Honduras or El Salvador or somewhere in Mexico, we know people are going to come streaming across the border, and right now we have no way to stop them.
It's crazy to me because people forget, yes, there are people from around the country that not only try to gain access to the United States through there, but I do remember seeing a story that was talking about Chinese nationals seeking to gain access into the United States through the southern border. And aside from that, even Mexico is now realizing, hey, this is the first time, because of what President Trump has done to showcase this issue, that Mexico's actually been able to also secure its own southern border. So across, not just in the United States, but Mexico as well, people are realizing that you need to secure the borders, that it's absolutely ridiculous to have an open border policy, which we know why the DNC pushes it. They do it because they want voters. They don't care about what happens to these people. They don't even care about Americans. They care about power. And unfortunately, it's enabling them because people aren't doing their own due diligence and research to realize that this is an issue. We do need to secure it. I'm going to say, as a veteran, I support that for that reason. But aside from that, coronavirus is very scary. It's very deadly. And we know that it's hopping now between countries. Italy's in quarantine, so it's very scary. We absolutely need to do something about it.
I interviewed a candidate running in Texas's 15th district, and we were talking about how her district is oddly gerrymandered from the border all the way up to Austin.
Yeah.
And she was saying, if we don't have a barrier, somebody can cross and within a day's time be in San Antonio and Austin spreading this disease, and we're not going to know who the patient zero is, right? I mean, it's hard enough to keep out the drug smugglers, keep out the gang members. We can't even keep out people who are just coming here looking for a job. How are we going to know? We don't even know how many illegal immigrants we have in this country. And this is about, you can't say that national security does not involve border security. Border security is national security. If you are trying to prevent the next breakout of a pandemic, you have to make sure that people with a disease cannot cross your border and infect your citizens, and you might not even know they've crossed.
Exactly, and by the way, for those people that do go through the normal citizenship process, which 1,010% should be done on a regular basis, they have to provide a health certificate. What a crazy concept. I mean, you have people that are actively turning a blind eye to the awful, awful problems that we have with drug running and human trafficking in this country. But now you have an outbreak of which Biden and Bloomberg were very quiet on this being a huge issue, I think, you know, in regards to what's happening now worldwide with this problem. But the point is that yes, it's a problem. Yes, we need to secure the border. And at the end of the day, I mean, how many more American lives are they going to put at risk? We already know that illegals, people that are not traceable, that live in the black market, in the black world, what ends up happening is these people end up hurting Americans, whether they're black, white, or Hispanic. And so why would you then want to expose an entire population of healthy Americans to this awful thing that's killing people?
Are you talking to any other candidates out there? Because, you know, on my radio show, I made the promise to talk to as many of the new conservative, you've been on my radio show, conservative candidates as I can, and they're all saying the same thing, whether they are Hispanic candidates, black candidates. We interviewed a couple candidates who are Indian immigrants. They're all saying the same thing, whether they were born here or they're immigrants. They're saying, I came legally, my family came legally. we have to do this the right way, not just to uphold the rule of law, but also our safety. And I have to imagine, the first time around, 2010 Tea Party, we got Paul Ryan, we got a bunch of Republicans, turned out not to be so conservative when the chips were down. But now I'm getting the sense that a lot of the younger new faces like yourself are not just saying it to get elected. They truly are conservatives. So are you talking to any other candidates that are new like yourself?
Yeah, I've actually, through social media, been able to reach out to candidates across the country. And one person that I really do resonate with is Catalina Lauf out in Illinois.
She's been on my radio.
She's been awesome. And the thing is that at the end of the day, I mean, we need new blood in Washington across the board. I mean, at the end of the day, you have people, for example, the guy I'm running against, Charlie Crist, he's been in office for 30 years. And, these people that don't have...
You say his name like we all don't know who he is. I mean, everybody knows him. Nobody likes him.
No,
he was the Republican governor that said, I'm with Obama.
And had it not been for Rick Scott really helping out our economy, we'd probably still be tanking in Florida. So the point is that people like this that have been in office as professional politicians, that's so utterly wrong. It was never intended to be that way when the founding fathers came together. I guarantee, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington were not sitting there and said, hey, look, dudes, we're going to have someone in office and it's going to be a lifetime appointment. That's not how it's supposed to be. And the fact is that when you have that strong control and power, how could you allow new voices to come in that actually want to fix these problems? And I can say that there's been people across the country that I've met that have no invested interest other than saving the country. It's not easy to do what we do. It's not easy to put yourself out there. You come up against so much attack on a regular basis. You're probably working 16, 17-hour days in addition to media. I mean, you really do put yourself out there, but we believe in fighting for this country, and I think that if we can regain the House, if we can go through, get that new blood in there, we really have a chance, I think for the first time in a really long time, to help change some of the awful policy that's been put forth by establishment politicians and to combat the identity politics of the DNC. They have such a stronghold on the Hispanic American vote and the Black American vote, and I'm hoping that in 2020 that changes.
It's funny, all this time, when you have a problem that everybody agrees exists and they do nothing about it, then they turn their fire on President Trump. He came in and said, here's the problem, here's the solution. And he got nowhere, not just with Democrats, it was Republicans, if we're being honest, right? The Paul Ryan crowd, the Mitch McConnell crowd, they did not want to give him the funding for that border wall. So when they say, well, what happens if coronavirus comes in? It's going to be the president's fault. Actually, it's going to be Congress's fault because they refuse to act. And here's the worst part about where we are heading into this election. There are so many conservative voices out there, and I'm trying to talk to as many as possible, but the media, the rest of the media, if you're AOC, they love you. If you're Anna Paulina Luna,
they don't love you.
They don't love you. If you're Preet Bharara, they'll put you on all day. If you're Sonny Chaparral, they'll never speak to you. So we have this coalition of Black, Hispanic, Indian, and Asian candidates all out there. Lisa Song Sutton running in Nevada.
I've actually talked to her. She's great.
Nowhere. You think the former Miss Nevada would be able to get some airtime? Kimberly Classic, former Miss Baltimore. You think she'd be able to get some airtime?
They're beautiful girls too. I mean, they're gorgeous.
The media is not talking to any of these young conservatives because the only image they want is their stereotype of the old white guy. And when we talk about the border, we talk about preventing coronavirus, we talk about travel bans, trying to keep us safe, they've made that a grumpy old white guy thing.
They race bait. That is exactly what they do.
And I know it's a grumpy old white guy.
They do race bait. You have AOC out there spreading lies, Ilhan Omar out there spreading lies, and what they do is they attempt to, instead of allowing these conversations to take place, whether you are a liberal or independent or Democrat, Republican, whatever it might be, what they do is they turn it into a racial issue when in actuality it's not. And I can say that, as someone who still is married to a military member who has many friends that have really done a lot for this country and expected almost nothing in return and sometimes have lost their lives, that it should be our obligation to make sure that if we're sending our men and women overseas to die for these wars, that the least that we can do is get off our butts in Congress, get the funding, and secure the border. And I think that people forget that, yes, that is very important, but also too, who are we as a nation if we don't have a defined border? We are the United States of America. We're not a world, global country. So we don't have to answer to anyone except for the American people. We want the wall, give us the funding, and get off your butts or don't get paid. That's what I say.
Here's the other thing about veterans. I get veteran callers, veteran emails, veteran posts on social media, and they all say the same thing. We go over to other countries with our military and we secure the borders of other nations, right? We're trying to secure the border of Iraq. After every major war, we've secured borders. You look at nations where we're still securing the South Korean border, right? But for for some reason, whenever we talk about securing our border, whether with the military, increasing the border patrol, the border wall, they say, no, we can't do that. It's mean, it's evil, it's racist, it separates families. But yet we're doing our military and our resources, our engineers are doing it everywhere around the world.
You know, even here in the United States, if you break laws, you separate families, and I hate that argument. The one thing that I will always be an advocate for is I want children to be separated from people claiming to be their parents, because you do have an instance of child trafficking. 1 in 3 children, I cannot say this enough, are not biologically related to the people that are claiming to be their parents. I mean, to think about it, it's sick. It's sick that we have an industry for that. But it's even more sick that these people will sell their kids and rent them so that people can exploit the asylum process. And I can say that under President Trump, that he's done such an incredible job with spotlighting these issues that we've actually seen now a decline in the amount of people that are trying to make that journey over here, in conjunction with him getting places like Mexico and South America to get on the board with this. You know, people don't want to deal with it. Obviously, Mexico doesn't want to have illegals in their country. I was actually just in a meeting earlier today, and I think the number was somewhere around 73% of people from Mexico, according to one of their newspapers similar to the New York Times, said that they don't want illegals in their country. And because there's a correlated issue, it's not about hating people based on skin color. These are Hispanic people. It's about the fact that along with that comes the poverty. Why would you want to ever give someone access to the United States and promise them the welfare system? It's so insulting.
We have our own.
We have our own problems.
How's the campaign going? Because again, you're one. Well, in Florida, one of many across the country. But how is? We've got to get you guys into the House of Representatives. So how's it going?
So as of right now, we've been doing a really good job fundraising, and I can say that one thing that I've always been an advocate for is that I want to be able to say that I represent the people. So, you know, we're careful about who we take money from, but we've actually gotten a lot of support from a lot of big fish in district, and then also to people from the district, which is important because at the end of the day, if you are representing, you know, corporate interests in Washington, that's not necessarily good for what you're going to be doing for your own district. And so I can say that, you know, as a veteran, obviously my husband's over at MacDill Air Force Base, which is right in the area. We're doing good, but it's honestly made possible from people like you that are giving us a chance to really talk to the viewers and ask them to donate, because I can say that when I first announced and you brought me on your radio show, people did donate, and it's helping and it's making a difference. And I tell people, whether it's $5, $10, $20, it all makes a difference. So you guys are actively fighting, and kind of going back to the Ballista article, the reason why they gave us that campaign cover is because they realize that we're up against a lot, and that you have to, at the end of the day, pick your candidate. You have to choose. You can't say that you're not going to get involved. You need to get involved. That's your obligation as an American. And so what we were able to do is spotlight, hey, I'm pro-life, pro-God, pro-gun, and anti-socialist. And if you really believe what I believe, then go ahead and donate to my campaign. And, you know, let's give the squad a run for their money. I know that that's kind of a common talking point, but at the end of the day, you had Bernie Sanders come out and say that he was a fan of Castro. I'm a firm believer that Bernie Sanders is not
off the table.
He could say goodbye to that, but what it showed me is that you had someone like AOC sit there and still endorse the guy, which means that she's not just a democratic socialist, and it's not just all, you know, rainbows and butterflies, that she's actually endorsing someone that's, in my opinion, a Marxist, a communist. And, you know, that word doesn't sit well with people, but guess what? It's still an agenda. It's an ideology that seeks to empower the government more than the people, to disarm them, use socialized medicine and education to brainwash, and then guess what? It kills people. So, yes, as a veteran, it is my obligation to stand up and say, I don't believe in this. I'm going to fight against this. I believe in the Second Amendment, and I believe that we have no place for socialism in the United States government, nor in Congress.
All right, I got to leave it there. Thank you for coming back in. We will get you back. This is going to be, look, November, it feels like a long way away. It's not a long way away. And if we don't reelect this president and take back this House, I fear for the future. But we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.